spicy chili series is in full throttle as we dive into tamales. Thank you so much for being here. This is 999 Things to Cook. Please hit that notification bell. We start with our beef. A chuck roast gets cut into even pieces for faster cooking and into an oven pan without haste. Some dried chilies are about to get chopped up. Throw the chili pieces in with the meat. Beef stock gets added to submerge it all. Cover and into a 350 oven for 2.5 to 3 hours. Get those corn husks soaking. Take your largest pot, fill it with water, and add the husks. Try to separate them a bit so water gets in between, and make sure they get weighed down so that they stay submerged. These will soak for many hours until you are ready to use them. In the meantime, we prep our fresh chilies. 1 poblano, 2 jalapenos, 3 serranos. Over an open flame, blister them up. It will take some time, so be patient. You want to get some nice looking char on them all. They should look kind of like this when they are ready. If you wrap them in foil, they will steam and the skin will be easy to peel off. Anyways, once peeled, chop them up and into a blender. Then some dried chilies, 2 guajillos, 3 more of these kind, I think they're called puillas, I probably butchered that up, and 1 ancho chili. Half of a monster onion or 1 whole small onion gets chopped up and added. 3 home-dried Fresno chilies gets ground up and added. There's actually no point in grinding this up for this method, but force of habit. Then some toasted ground cumin seeds goes in. Maybe a couple tablespoons worth. Yes, grinding is necessary for the cumin, unlike the Fresnos. About 8 cloves of garlic, who's counting? A teaspoon of salt, lots of black pepper, a teaspoon of oregano. The meat comes out after 2.5 hours. Remove it all from the pan. Take out the chilies to discard as they have given up all their flavor in the liquid. Now all of that hot liquid somehow finds its way into the blender. Lid goes on and it will sit for at least 10 minutes to steep for a bit, which gives you just enough time to shred up your meat. Take a couple forks and just pull the meat apart. All the shredded meat goes into a pot to await the flavor liquid. Turn the blender on high and liquefy all those flavors together. Just look at the color of that sauce. Wonderful. Stir it up well and bring the pot to a simmer. The pot will now reduce for a good while. You can't rush this or you can end up burning everything. I actually recommend making this meat the night before along with soaking the husks overnight so that you are not racing the clock like I am. When it's all reduced and looks something like this, the meat should rest for a couple hours. It at least needs to rest until it's cooled off completely. The longer it rests though, the better the flavors will be. But before it cools off, taste for salt. I have my secret weapon on hand and I add a scoop of better than bouillon chicken base. Now it can sit and cool. For the tamale dough, we have 4.5 cups of maseca, which is an instant corn flour. A good amount of salt gets added and whisked very well. A separate bowl will get 1.5 cups of room temperature lard and mixed very well. You want to make it as smooth and silky as you can. This will take about 5 minutes of painstaking effort by hand or much less time in a food processor. But have fun cleaning out the food processor if you choose to go that route. Okay, so 3 3/4 cups of water, let's just say 4 cups, starts to get poured in and gently mixed by hand. Some people swear by cold water, others by hot water. Some people even melt the lard, but I'm using room temperature water and it always seems to work out just fine. By the time all the water is added, the dough will start getting pretty smooth. If it is clumpy, you will need more water. Then start adding the lard little bits at a time. Small handfuls work. Just work it in all together by hand. It should stay smooth, like folding it in. Just take your time and incorporate everything. This is what it looks like at this point. Then cover with green plastic wrap? Not sure where that came from, but I'll go with it. Cover and let sit on the counter for half an hour at least before using it. Before building the tamales, if the meat is nice and saucy, add it to a colander that's inside another bowl to drain off the excess juices. And excess juices can be a good thing because nobody likes a dry tamale. But you also don't want it leaking all over the place when you go to construct them. Now, building a tamale is pretty simple, but it takes practice. You basically spread a bit of the masa dough onto a corn husk and place a thin layer of meat in the middle as you see here. Then wrap the edges together, thus encasing the meat with dough in a cylindrical shape, tucking the excess husk together, crimping to one side while folding the thin bottom piece upwards. It's not as difficult as I made that sound. I'm a fan of wrapping a second husk around the first one, since lots of times there are splits and also various size husks. Then you take a thin strip of husk and gently tie it around the bottom, holding the folded part up so the tamale stays together. And now look at how nice and pretty that looks. Not a pain in the ass at all to cut a few dozen pieces very thin and then tie them together very gently so they will look pretty at a party for those who actually care about that sort of thing. Or, get ready for tamale cringe. Look away, food snobs. Butcher's twine. Ha! Now, you can repeat the process over and over again and tie up both ends faster with twine. Don't tie the top end too tight. It needs to stay open a bit to breathe when these get steamed. If at first you are not fast at doing this, fear not, because you will get better with repetition when you do it again. And again. And again. Faster. Faster. And faster. Over and over, and this is a lot of fun we're having, but let's skip to the point where I get fed up and it's almost midnight now and I still have to cook and cool these. Grab some tamale meat in a tortilla for a snack. In a pot goes one of these things with some water. A small bowl gets placed upside down in the middle. Place all the tamales with the opening side facing upwards. Turn the heat on medium-low so that it will come to a simmer. I've seen that it's popular to add a bunch of husks on top of everything before adding a lid. I've always just used a lid in the past and never had any issue, but why not add the husks on top, right? So the lid goes on and they steam for 90 minutes. 90 minutes later, and at this point I'm wondering why I decided to start this 10 to 12 hour project at 4 in the afternoon instead of making the meat the night before. You know how this goes. The lid comes off and the steam goes with it. Not if you got a bunch of husks holding all the steam down in there. Oh yeah, 2 in the morning steam burn on the wrist. No crying in the kitchen. Grab those tongs. Now turn the heat off and let it sit for at least 30 minutes or more. They need to solidify now that they are cooked. So let's check them out.